The parable of the sealed room. Leora had always been the kind of woman people underestimated, not because she was weak, not because she was quiet, but because she carried her strength like a secret, tucked behind soft eyes and a gentle voice, hidden beneath years of learning that the world didn't always reward the ones who spoke first. She lived in a small apartment above a florist shop where the scent of roses and eucalyptus drifted through her window every morning. To most people, it was a charming place. To Leora, it was a sanctuary, the only space where she didn't have to pretend she was okay. Because the truth was, she wasn't. Not lately, not since God whispered something to her that changed everything. It happened 3 months ago, on a night when she couldn't sleep. She had been pacing her living room, praying, crying, asking God why her life felt stuck, why every door she knocked on stayed shut, why every dream she chased slipped through her fingers. And then, in the middle of her frustration, she heard it. Not with her ears, with her spirit, a direction, a calling, a blueprint for her future. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was unmistakable. And it was big, bigger than anything she had ever imagined for herself. She remembered sitting down on the floor, shaking, whispering, God, is this really you? And the answer came like a warm breath against her soul. Yes, she cried, she laughed, she worshiped, she felt alive for the first time in years. But then she made the mistake that would cost her more than she realized. She told people, not everyone, just the ones she thought she could trust. Her friend Talia was the first. Talia, with her perfect hair and perfect smile and perfect life, the kind of woman who always said the right thing but never meant half of it. Leora told her everything, expecting excitement, support, celebration. Instead, Talia's smile tightened. That's interesting, she said. Are you sure you heard God? Maybe you're just overwhelmed. Leora laughed it off, but something inside her sank. Then she told her coworker, Jenna, the one who always asked too many questions, the one who loved information more than she loved people. Jenna leaned in, eyes wide. Wow, that's huge. So, what exactly did God say? Like, word for word? Leora told her. And Jenna nodded slowly, the way someone nods when they're filing information away for later use. Then she told her cousin, who smiled and said, I'm happy for you. But her tone said, Why not me? And little by little, Leora felt something shift. The excitement faded, the clarity dimmed, the direction felt fragile. Doors that were open began to close. Opportunities that were certain began to crumble. People who once encouraged her began to pull away. And the worst part? She felt spiritually exposed, like she had handed her purpose to people who didn't know how to hold it. One night, after another disappointment, she fell to her knees in her living room. God, she whispered, why does everything fall apart when I speak? The answer came softly. Because you are planting seeds in poisoned soil. Leora froze. What does that mean? Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Not everyone who listens deserves access. Not everyone who claps is clapping for you. Her breath caught. Then what do I do? Come with me. The next morning, she woke with a strange pull in her spirit, a direction she didn't understand but couldn't ignore. She followed it through the city, past familiar streets, past the noise and crowds, until she reached a part of town she had never noticed before. Old buildings, quiet sidewalks, a stillness that felt out of place, and then she saw it. An abandoned library, tall, silent, dusty windows, heavy doors. Something about it felt ancient, like it had been waiting for her. Go inside, God whispered. Leora hesitated. The doors looked heavy, the building looked forgotten, the air felt thick with mystery. But she pushed the door open, and the moment she stepped inside, the noise of the world disappeared. No cars, no voices, no footsteps, just silence. A deep, sacred silence that wrapped around her like a cloak. She took a step forward. The floorboards creaked softly beneath her feet. Dust floated through beams of sunlight. Bookshelves towered above her like silent witnesses. And then she saw it. In the center of the library stood a single wooden door, newer than the building, glowing faintly, as if it didn't belong to this world. Her heart pounded. "What is this place?" she whispered, and God answered, "A sealed room where I teach my children the power of silence." Leora felt her breath catch. She reached for the door. Her hand trembled. She turned the handle and stepped inside. The door closed behind Leora with a soft, final click, the kind of sound that didn't just shut out the world, but sealed something sacred inside. The room was small, bare, silent. A single table, a single chair, a single oil lamp flickering without flame. The air felt thick, almost alive, like the room itself was breathing. Leora stood still, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know whether to sit, kneel, speak, or run. All she knew was that something holy was happening, and she didn't want to break it. Then she heard it, not a voice in the room, a voice in her spirit. "You have been leaking destiny through conversations." Leora's breath caught. The words hit her like a wave, not harsh, but heavy, like truth she had been avoiding. "You have been giving access to people who do not carry the capacity to protect what I gave you." Her knees weakened. "You have been sharing divine instruction with human insecurity." She covered her mouth, tears rising. "You have been revealing blueprints to people who only know how to build doubt." Leora sank into the chair, trembling. "I didn't know," she whispered. "That is why I brought you here." The lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced across the walls like living things. "Leora," God said, "purpose grows in silence, direction matures in secrecy, and destiny is safest in rooms where only I can enter." She closed her eyes, letting the words settle deep into the places she never let anyone touch. But then something unexpected happened. The lamp brightened, not with fire, but with a warm, golden glow that filled the room. And in that glow, Leora saw something forming, a shape, a silhouette, a presence. It wasn't human, it wasn't angelic, it was truth taking form. The presence stepped closer, and Leora felt her heart race. "Joseph spoke too soon," God said. "Samson trusted too easily." The present shifted, showing flashes, not images, but impressions. Joseph, excited, sharing his dream with brothers who hated him. Samson, confident, revealing his secret to a woman who never loved him. Both gifted, both chosen, both sabotaged by their own openness. Both carried greatness, God continued. Both lost pieces of themselves because they opened their mouths before I opened the door. Leora felt that in her bones. She whispered, "Then teach me. Teach me how to protect what you gave me." The presence stepped closer and the lamp glowed brighter. "Then listen." And suddenly the room shifted. The walls dissolved into darkness. The floor disappeared beneath her feet. She wasn't falling. She was floating, suspended in a space that felt endless. A vision unfolded around her. She saw herself standing in a field, holding a small seed in her hand. The seed glowed softly, pulsing with life. "This is your purpose," God said. Leora held it gently, protectively, but then she saw people approaching, familiar faces. Talia, Jenna, her cousin, others she had trusted. They smiled, they reached out, they asked questions. And Leora, eager to share, opened her hand. The moment she did, the seed dimmed, not because they touched it, but because she exposed it too soon. The people walked away, uninterested, unimpressed, unaware of the value they had just dismissed. and the seed in her hand flickered weakly. Leora felt tears streaming down her face. I didn't know, she whispered. You weren't supposed to, God said gently. Not until now. The vision shifted again. Now she stood in the same field, holding the same seed. But this time she kept her hand closed. She didn't show it. She didn't explain it. She didn't announce it. She simply planted it. Quietly, privately, obediently, and the moment the seed touched the soil, it glowed brighter, brighter than before, brighter than she had ever seen. Roots shot downward, a stem rose upward, leaves unfurled, fruit formed, and the tree that grew was strong, unshakable, unbreakable, undeniable. When you protect what I give you, God said, I protect what grows from it. The vision faded and the room returned. The lamp flickered softly. Leora wiped her face, overwhelmed. God, she whispered, I don't want to lose what you gave me. Then guard it, he said. Guard it with silence. Guard it with discernment. Guard it with obedience. The presence stepped closer, and Leora felt warmth wrap around her like a cloak. From this day forward, God said, you will speak less and hear more. You will move quietly and obey quickly. You will protect what I give you until I release you to reveal it. Leora nodded, tears falling freely. And when will you release me? She whispered. When the fruit is strong enough to survive the envy. The lamp dimmed, the presence faded, the room grew still, and Leora sat there, trembling, transformed, undone. She didn't know how long she stayed in that chair. Minutes, hours, maybe longer. Time didn't exist in that room, only truth. Finally, the door behind her opened on its own. A soft breeze drifted in. The world was waiting, but she wasn't the same woman who walked in. She stood slowly, wiped her face, and stepped out of the sealed room. The library was quiet. The city outside was loud, but Leora was different. She walked through the library with a new strength, not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. She didn't tell anyone what God said. She didn't post it. She didn't hint at it. She didn't explain it. She simply carried it. And for the first time in her life, her silence felt like power. When Leora stepped out of the sealed room, the air in the library felt different, lighter, clearer, almost reverent. Dust still floated in the sunlight. The shelves still towered above her, but the atmosphere had changed. Or maybe she had. She walked slowly toward the exit, her footsteps soft against the wooden floor. Every sound felt amplified, the creak of the boards, the whisper of her breath, the faint hum of the world outside. But inside her chest, there was silence, not the silence of emptiness, the silence of clarity, the kind of silence that comes when God has spoken so deeply that words feel unnecessary. When she stepped outside, the city noise hit her like a wave, cars honking, people talking, footsteps rushing past, but none of it touched her. She moved through the chaos like someone who had just returned from another world. Because she had. As she walked home, she noticed something strange. People looked different, not physically, spiritually. She could feel intentions now. She could sense motives. She could discern spirits. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't mystical. It was awareness, a sharpened intuition, a holy sensitivity, a new level of discernment that felt like a gift wrapped in responsibility. When she reached her apartment, she didn't collapse into bed like she expected. She didn't cry. She didn't pace. She didn't pray. She sat in silence, and the silence felt like obedience. The next morning, she woke with a peace she hadn't felt in years. Not excitement, not adrenaline, peace. She made tea. She opened her curtains. She sat at her small kitchen table and watched the sunlight spill across the floor. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel the urge to tell anyone what happened. Not Talia, not Jenna, not her cousin, not anyone. The sealed room had sealed her mouth, and it felt right, but the world around her didn't stay quiet. That afternoon, Talia called. "Hey," she said, her voice sugary sweet. "I've been thinking about you. You've been so distant lately. Everything okay?" Leora held the phone to her ear, listening, not to the words, but to the tone beneath them. Concern? No. Curiosity, control, a desire to know, not a desire to support. Leora smiled softly. "I'm good," she said. "That's it?" Talia laughed. "No updates, no news, nothing exciting?" Leora felt the old urge rise, the urge to explain, to share, to fill the silence. But she swallowed it. "No updates," she said gently, "just taking things one day at a time." Talia paused, a long, uncomfortable pause. "Oh," she said finally. "Well, okay then." Her disappointment was obvious. Her frustration was subtle. Her entitlement was loud. Leora didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She didn't fill the silence. She simply said, "Talk soon," and hung up. And the moment she did, she felt something break, not in her, but around her. A spiritual cord, a tie, a connection that was never healthy to begin with. God whispered, "One down." Later that week, Jenna approached her at work. "Hey," Jenna said, leaning against the counter, "you've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" Leora nodded. "Everything's fine." Jenna narrowed her eyes. "You sure? You usually tell me everything." Leora smiled politely. "Not everything." Jenna blinked, thrown off. "Well, anything new happening?" Leora shook her head. "Just focusing on what matters." Jenna's smile faltered. "Oh," she said. "Okay." But her eyes said something else. Her eyes said, "Why aren't you feeding me anymore? Why can't I access you like before? Why can't I use your information to feel important?" Leora felt it. She saw it. She discerned it. And she didn't feel guilty. God whispered, "Two down." But the biggest shift came from someone she didn't expect, her cousin, the one who always smiled politely, the one who always said the right thing, the one who always acted supportive, but never celebrated her wins. They met for coffee that weekend. Her cousin leaned forward, stirring her drink. "So, what's new with you? You've been so quiet." Leora took a sip of her tea. "Just listening," she said. "To what?" "To God." Her cousin laughed lightly. "Oh, well, anything he's saying?" Leora looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw the truth. Her cousin didn't want to celebrate her. She wanted to compare herself to her. She wanted to measure her own life against Leora's. She wanted information, not intimacy. Leora set her cup down. "He's teaching me to keep some things to myself." Her cousin blinked. "Why?" "Because not everyone can carry what he gives me." The words were gentle, but they landed like a stone. Her cousin's smile cracked. "Oh," she said, "well, I guess that's good for you." Leora nodded. "It is." The conversation died, not awkwardly, not painfully, naturally, because the connection had been built on access, not love. God whispered, "Three down." Over the next few weeks, Leora's circle shifted dramatically. People who once demanded her attention drifted away. People who once drained her energy stopped calling. People who once pretended to support her lost interest. And Leora didn't chase them. She didn't explain. She didn't apologize. She didn't try to fix anything. And she simply let them go. Because the sealed room had taught her something she never understood before. Some people are only connected to you because of what you leak. When you stop leaking, they stop staying. And that was okay, because for the first time in her life, Leora wasn't afraid of losing people. She was afraid of losing purpose, and she wasn't going to let that happen again. Leora didn't notice the shift at first. She only noticed the quiet, not the quiet around her, the quiet inside her. The anxiety that once lived in her chest had loosened its grip. The urge to explain herself had dissolved. The pressure to be understood had vanished. She moved through her days with a calm she didn't recognize, a calm that felt like it came from somewhere deeper than her own strength. And that calm began to change everything. It happened on a Thursday morning. Leora was at work, stocking shelves, minding her business, when her manager approached her. "Leora," he said, "can I talk to you for a second?" She followed him to the back office, expecting the usual, a schedule change, a task assignment, something routine. But instead, he sat down and looked at her with a seriousness she wasn't used to. "I've been watching you," he said. Leora blinked. "Watching me?" He nodded. "Your work ethic, your attitude, your consistency. You don't complain, you don't gossip, you don't get caught up in drama, you just do what needs to be done." Leora felt her heart beat a little faster. "I want to promote you," he said. Her breath caught. "To what?" "Shift lead. It's not glamorous, but it's a step up. More responsibility, more pay, more trust." Leora stared at him, stunned. She hadn't asked for this. She hadn't hinted at it. She hadn't chased it. It came to her, quietly, naturally, effortlessly. Her manager smiled. "You earned it." But Leora knew the truth. She didn't earn it. God positioned it. Because when she stopped talking, he started moving. A week later, she received an email from a woman she barely knew, someone she had met once at a community event months ago. "Hi, Leora. I don't know why, but your name has been on my heart. Would you be open to meeting for coffee? I feel like God wants me to share something with you." Leora hesitated. Old Leora would have rushed to say yes. New Leora paused, prayed, and listened, and she felt peace. So she agreed. They met at a small cafe on the edge of town. The woman, her name was Miriam, smiled warmly when Leora arrived. "I'm glad you came," Miriam said. "I know this might sound strange, but God showed me something about you." Leora's heart thudded. Miriam continued. "He showed me a tree, a strong tree, deep roots, healthy fruit. But the tree grew in silence, in a hidden place, away from noise, away from people who would have cut it down before it matured." Leora felt chills run down her spine. Miriam leaned forward, and God said, "Tell her, I hid you to grow you." Leora's eyes filled with tears. Miriam wasn't done. He also said, "Tell her, the ones who left were removed, not lost." Leora covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Miriam reached across the table and gently touched her hand. "You're entering a season where God will bring the right people to you. People who protect, not drain. People who support, not sabotage. People who celebrate, not compete." Leora nodded, tears falling freely. "And one more thing," Miriam said softly. "God said, tell her she's safe now." Leora broke, not from pain, from relief. For the first time in years, she felt safe. It happened quietly. No announcement, no ceremony, no spotlight. Just a moment. Leora was walking home one evening, the sun setting behind the buildings, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. She felt a familiar warmth in her spirit, the same warmth she felt in the sealed room. And God whispered, "Now you may speak." Leora stopped in her tracks. "Speak? What?" she whispered. "Your testimony." She swallowed hard. "But to who?" "To the ones I send." She nodded slowly. She didn't feel fear. She didn't feel pressure. She didn't feel the urge to run and tell everyone. She felt ready. Not because she had something to prove, but because she had something to give. 2 weeks later, Leora was invited to a small women's gathering at a local church. She didn't know why she was invited. She didn't know what to expect. She didn't know anyone there, but she felt peace. When she arrived, the room was warm and welcoming. Soft lights, gentle music, women talking quietly. The leader, a woman named Pastor Elise, smiled when she saw Leora. "I'm so glad you came," she said. "Would you mind sharing a word tonight?" Leora froze. "Me?" Elise nodded. "Yes, God told me you have something to release." Leora's heart pounded. She stepped to the front of the room, her hands trembling slightly. The women quieted, turning their attention to her. She took a deep breath, and for the first time since the sealed room, she spoke. Not about the details of her calling, not about the blueprint God gave her, not about the specifics of her purpose. She spoke about silence, about secrecy, about discernment, about protecting what God gives, about waiting for his release, about the danger of sharing too soon, about the power of guarding purpose, about the beauty of hidden seasons, about the strength that comes from obedience. The room grew still. Women leaned forward. Some cried, some nodded, some whispered prayers under their breath. Leora wasn't preaching. She was pouring. And when she finished, the room erupted, not in applause, but in worship. Women hugged her. Women thanked her. Women said, "I needed that." Women said, "That was for me." Women said, "God used you tonight." And Leora felt it, the elevation, and not the elevation of fame, not the elevation of attention, the elevation of purpose, the elevation that comes when God says, "Now." That night, as Leora walked home under the quiet glow of streetlights, God whispered one final time, "You protected the seed. Now watch the tree grow." Leora smiled, tears in her eyes. She didn't need to tell everyone. She didn't need to prove anything. She didn't need to announce her calling. She just needed to obey. And she did, silently, faithfully, powerfully. And that was the beginning, not the end, of her elevation.